Schizophrenia. Among mental disorders, one of the most peculiar, disturbing, and profound disorder is schizophrenia. Since its first identification and classification, scientists have been searching for the primary cause of this debilitating disease. Experts tend to agree that schizophrenia not just caused by one factor but by several factors. The first to consider is genetics. Scientists have long known that schizophrenia run in families. The illness occur in 1% of the general population, but it occurs in 10% of people who have a first degree relative with the disorder, such as a parent, brother, or sister. People who have second degree relatives, aunts, uncles, grandparents, or cousins with the disease also develop schizophrenia more often than the general population. The risk is highest for an identical twin of a person with schizophrenia. He or she has a 40 to 65% chance of developing the disorder. We inherit out genes from both parents. Scientists believe several genes are associated with an increased risk of schizophrenia, but that no single gene causes the disease by itself. In fact, recent research has found that people with schizophrenia tend to have higher rates of rare genetic mutations. These genetic differences involve hundreds of different genes and probably disrupt brain development. Other recent studies suggest that schizophrenia may result in part when a certain gene that is the key in the making of important brain chemicals malfunctions. This problem may affect the part of the brain involved in developing higher functioning skills. Research into this gene is ongoing. So, it is not yet possible to use the genetic information to predict who will develop the disease or not. Despite this, tests that scan a person's genes can be brought without a prescription or a health professional's advice. Ads for the tests suggest that with a saliva sample, a company can determine if a client is at risk for developing specific diseases, including schizophrenia. However, scientists don't yet know all of the gene variations that could potentially contribute to schizophrenia. Those that are known raise the risk only by very small amounts. Therefore, these genome scans are unlikely to provide a complete and accurate picture of a person's risk for developing schizophrenia. In addition, it probably takes more than just the transfer of genes that leads to the disorder. Scientists think interactions between genes and the environment are necessary for schizophrenia to develop. Many environmental factors may be involved, such as exposure to viruses or malnutrition before birth, problems during birth, and other not yet known psychosocial factors. These could stem from child abuse, exposure to extreme living conditions for prolonged periods in childhood, early childhood drug and alcohol use, and many other factors which create extreme stress for a child and adolescent. Schizophrenia have distinct and different brain chemistry and structure. Scientists think that an imbalance in the complex, interrelated chemical reactions of the brain involving the neurotransmitters dopamine and glutamate and possibly others plays a role in schizophrenia. Neurotransmitters are substances that allow brain cells to communicate with each other. This communication gets disrupted in schizophrenia. Scientists are learning more about brain chemistry and its link to schizophrenia. In small ways, the brains of people with schizophrenia look different than those of healthy people. For example, fluid filled cavities at the center of the brain, called ventricles, are larger in some people with schizophrenia. The brains of people with the illness also tend to have less gray matter, and some areas of the brain may have less or more activity. Studies of brain tissue after death also have revealed differences in the brains of people with schizophrenia. Scientists have found small changes in the distribution or characteristics of brain cells that have likely occurred before birth. Some experts think problems during brain development before birth may lead to faulty connections. These problems may not show up in a person until puberty. The brain undergoes major changes during puberty, and these changes could trigger psychotic symptoms. Scientists have learned a lot about schizophrenia, but more research is needed to help explain how it develops.